Hello, welcome back to the podcast. A couple updates for you before we dive in today. Number one, if you didn't hear on last week's episode, we've gone to YouTube. So every Monday, as normal, the podcast episodes will be coming out on audio everywhere podcasts play. And now every week on Thursdays on the Sanctuary of She YouTube channel, you'll be able to watch the full videos in video format. And then throughout the week, I upload little shorts of key takeaways from each episode. So if you're a YouTuber, if you love the occasional let's have tea or coffee together and actually hang out face to face, go to the Sanctuary of She YouTube channel. The link will now be in the show notes of the episodes. Hit the subscribe. Wow, am I one of those people now? Hit the subscribe button, but really do it because let's hang out on YouTube and it really helps out the channel as it's getting going. So that's one of the updates. Another update is also mentioned in last episode. Next month, November, is the 4th birthday of this podcast, which is just so incredibly crazy. And one of the things we're going to be kind of speaking into today in this episode is an extension of the power of sticking with something for a long period of time and really what goes into something like that, the energetics of something like that, but then really what happens on the other side of allowing yourself to do that. So for the birthday next month, we are going to be doing something we've never done, something that I'm so excited / nervous about, and something that I cannot wait to invite you into. More information will be coming in the coming weeks as the month turns to November, but keep your eye out because if you listen to this podcast, if you get down with this energetics work, if you love hanging out, you are going to be so excited and all in for this thing that we are doing. So that is coming. And then finally, I haven't mentioned this yet, but July 2025, we are hosting the first Sanctuary of She retreat in Maui, in Hawaii, where I live. I'm bringing you guys out here. We have located the retreat space. We are getting all of the details sorted. I haven't planned a retreat since pre-COVID, and so I'm getting re-inundated with all of the pieces that come with planning an event of this caliber, and it is fueling my soul to no end. We already have like the first 6 spots locked in, I think. But the beauty of this retreat space is that it can kind of accommodate as many of you that want to come. Well, no, that's over exaggerating, but it is going to be 5 days of 3 things. Really allowing yourself to soak up the island. We're going to have waterfall, beach. We are going to have some pool time, like really just like allowing yourself to enjoy the island, mixed with silence, meditative spaces, to be with the parts of yourself that you are really coming to gain clarity on, allowing yourself to connect with the energy of this island and taking that time for you. And then finally, of course, activation. We're going to have classes and workshops going deep into this energetics work and really connecting with the women of this space in such a beautiful, beautiful way. So there is about 9 months until then. And so if you want to come in and join us on the retreat, you are absolutely welcome. There is still so much time for you to come in and get to know the women of the Sanctuary of She community and really get into the flow of how it works in there, the deep parts of the energetics pieces that are going to unlock so many things that you've been so excited to tap into. And so by the time you get to the retreat, that's what's also cool, right? A lot of retreats you show up and you're like, I don't know anyone. This is so nerve-wracking. But the next several months, you'll be able to get to know the women in there. And then we are all coming together. And you guys, I'm meeting in person for the first time. Women I've worked with for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. It is, oh my gosh, the idea of having so many of you in a room together where we can be in the flesh, getting to squeeze you all. It's just so much for my heart. So Toonie will be making an appearance. Tom will be making an appearance. We've got so many fun things planned. The itinerary is like the best 5 days of your whole life. So if you are someone who you're like, ooh, I'm interested in details about this, Katie, please tell me. I would not mind a trip out to Hawaii in July. Then send me a message on Instagram, send me an email, wherever the places that you would like to reach me at. We can chat. Okay, let's get into the episode, shall we? All right, you guys, this episode is coming to you in a really beautiful, yummy, nourishing energy. I'm going to share with you one of the things that I'm really working on in my life. But also when I speak into this is something that we are always accessing new levels of. And it also relates to a celebration of celebrating something like a podcast turning 4 years old, where we have not missed a week in 4 years. We have a library of over 210 episodes. Like what? What goes into something like that? What allows for something like that to take form? And then how does it relate into what I'm experiencing in my life, my personal life right now, and what I'm being called into? And I know that you are as well, because this is a piece that is always whispering to us. It's a piece that combats our inner perfectionist. It's a piece that combats our inner need for control. It's a piece that asks us to trust in the unknown. And it's a piece that asks us to be guided by pleasure and desire and love and fun and play. Okay? What is this? What is this piece? This piece is the messy middle. The messy middle, and more specifically, repetition in the messy middle. When we can access repetition in the messy middle, we can accomplish anything. We actually tap into limitlessness. What do I mean by this? You get the idea. Me 4 years ago, having a podcast would be cool. But then, what comes in inevitably? Well, if I'm going to be a podcaster, or insert whatever your thing is, then I need to know how to do it right. So I'm going to look outside of myself. I'm going to analyze and study, however long that takes, right? Until I find the perfect way of doing things based on what I'm seeing other people are doing. And then I'm going to try to copy and paste those methods and plop it in here, but it's not feeling right. Something's off. So I'm going to overanalyze, overthink. I'm going to record an episode, but I'm going to edit the crap out of it and listen to it 27 times. So I'm just going to actually delete that and start over again. And now I'm overwhelmed. And now I'm telling myself stories that, well, am I supposed to be doing this because it seems so natural for other people? Who knows this loop? Who knows this loop? With insert whatever a goal was in the past, or insert whatever goal you are holding now. There is a superpower in the messy middle, a superpower that lies within repetition in the messy middle. Because the messy middle says, I don't know how to do this perfectly, and I'm not guaranteed that it will come out exactly how I want, but even still, I'm going to do it. Even still, I'm going to show up. Even still, I'm going to create the thing. Even still, I'm going to launch it. I'm going to post it. I'm going to reveal it. I'm going to bring it to life. Even still, in that messy middle between going for it and becoming a master of the craft, I'm going to show up with repetition. Because the craziest thing is that you can only become a master of your craft through repetition. That is the only gateway. The only gateway is the messy middle. Because it cannot be taught by someone else what your unique, authentic, aligned approach is, what your strategy is, what your voice sounds like, the way that your mind works when you remove all the constraints that are overthinking and your channel opens and you can just be, the way that you creatively allow art to flow through you, the way that you live life from that uncaged place. These are only things that can be accessed within a messy middle. It can never be planned out beforehand. You know why? Because you learn who you are in the messy middle. With every time you show up for the thing, you learn what feels good, what's working good, and what didn't feel good, and what didn't work good. And instead of allowing that to slow you down and overthink, you do it anyways. And then when you come back to it again, you're a little bit better. When you come back to it again, you're a little bit better. And it's a micro shift of every time you show up with repetition in the messy middle until one day, and you're going to miss it because the micro shifts are going to be so finite at times, and you're going to be on this path and there's always going to be room to improve. But one day you're going to wake up and you're going to say, oh my gosh, I'm forever in the messy middle, but I am feeling the mastery of my craft. I'm feeling my ability to show up and do the thing from a place of freedom and flow and joy. And I'm finding that I can trust myself deeper in that process the more that I do it. I'm finding that the authentic pieces of myself, the whole reason that is connected to the deep whispers that guide me to these ideas, is for the joy of the doing of them. And I've tapped into the joy of the doing of them. And so it actually never mattered about doing it perfectly or copy and pasting anything. It only mattered that I find my joy and my way of doing things so that then I could create an energy that is joyful, that is filled with happiness. This dog is just loving this, right? What are these pieces for you? Because on the other side of the messy middle, it's going to feel a little awkward at first, right? Like we've talked about it. Some of my first podcast episodes, like I refuse to go back and listen to because I'm like, oh, I'm sure they're fine. I'm sure they're fine. But like, you know, I was in the messy middle awkward phase. If you want to start a podcast, don't look at me where I'm at now. Go back to my first episodes and hear the beauty in the imperfection. Hear the beauty in the messy middle. And then come back and listen to a current day episode in the way that I can just speak from my heart, from my truth, without a bullet pointed list that I'm trying to hit every block, without over editing anything, right? You can feel me because of every episode before this. Our best keeps getting better, and what we can hold continues to expand. And so now as the podcast is turning 4, right? Like I said at the beginning of this, now we've gone on YouTube. Now it's not just me sitting with myself and a microphone. It's also me on camera. That in itself there was so much resistance for so long. This camera, if you're watching with me on YouTube, this little camera brought me so much stress for so long. Why? Because when I just play with it, when I just have fun with it, when I just trust myself in it, when I know it's not going to be perfect, but I know that each time I show up, it's going to get better, then I'm actually back on the path of living and being and creating from this place to connect with each and every single one of you and be in this beautiful energetics work together from a place that is expansive, from a place that is purpose-filled and mission-driven. Not just because I need to fit into a box in a way that I see other people doing it. Okay, so this is your invitation for insert whatever it is that you're going through or wanting to bring into your life right now. What is that thing for you that if you're willing to release perfectionism, overthinking, and control, that you can just allow yourself to play in the messy middle with? Because once you're willing to do that, you become unstoppable. You become limitless. And you become a master of your craft every single day, every single month, every single year that you are showing up for this thing over and over and over again. This is also why for some people, if you haven't been able to hold that, if you haven't been able to find joy in the messy middle and start to find that trust and confidence, there potentially is something that's being illuminated to you. Because when it is so aligned and coming from that deep place, this should only be really scary the first few times. And then you're going to be okay with your imperfections because it's never going to be perfect, right? Like if I were to record this same episode tomorrow, I would probably do it way better. Everything is coming alive in real time, but that's the art. So if you haven't been able to find that in what you've been attempting a messy middle with, I invite you to just reflect on that. Is this coming from the most aligned place? Or are there a couple little energetic tingles within these pieces that maybe aren't actually coming from my truest self, actually coming from my deepest heart, actually speaking from the womb, actually mind, body, and soul connected, not just ego driven, right? Because once it's coming from there, then the joy of making the art is the fun itself. So how is this relating to me in my personal life right now? So I am the energetics of that we're speaking into, and the power and the celebration of getting a podcast to 4 years. Because you guys, I knew when I started a podcast, I was like, if I'm doing this, I sit with things for a long time and I find my aligned timing, whether it's the 365-day live Facebook live challenge that I did, starting a podcast, doing my deep annual cleanse that I just did for the second time. I did 100 days of devotion a few years ago. There's also podcast episodes on every single one of these things if you want to learn about the energetics behind them. But I always wait for my aligned time, because only from an aligned time can we actually make a commitment. I was not the person who was okay with saying, I'm going to start a podcast, and then 3 episodes later, you never hear from me again. Get behind your why. Give yourself your aligned timing, mind, body, heart, and soul, so that when you step forth into the arena of something, you can't be taken out at the snap of a finger. You are connected to your joy. You're connected to the inner artist that is creatively making it come alive in the messy middle. That's the muse. I saw a quote the other day on Instagram. I posted it to Sanctuary of She. Chaos makes the muse. Ugh. I was like, oh my gosh. Here's an invitation for my next level as well. Chaos makes the muse. To me, so many people could see that and think, we all have our different own perceptions of that, right? Some of you might see that and be like, absolutely not. Chaos makes chaos. Chaos does not make the muse. To me, what that meant and the impact that it's been having on my life since I've been sitting with the power behind that is it's illuminating everything that I'm talking about, the messy middle, with you in one direction here, right? Because as we keep compounding that, our best keeps getting better and the amount that we can hold continues to expand. So as I've mastered this art with my podcast, I can see my blind spots in other areas of my life. I can be very type A. This is my Capricorn self. I love a plan. I love a plan so much. But I also know that magic typically happens outside of a plan, because a plan is within the realm of predictability. It's predictable what's going to happen because we've got a plan to it. And the realm of predictability is so helpful for so many things, but magic typically exists outside of that. Think about if you are going to Italy with your lover and you arrive and you've got 5 days there, and he or she is like, all right, 5 days. Here's the list of things that we must see, right? I used to be this traveler as well, so I get it. And there's always a time and place for a good itinerary, especially when you really are going for that. Okay, so that's exciting, right? Okay, we've got an itinerary. Breakfast at 8 a.m. here, then we're doing here, then we're da. Okay, there's beauty to that. But is there a lot of room for magic in that? Not necessarily. Is there a lot of room for magnetism in that? Not necessarily. There's a lot of, there's happiness that's cultivated, joy that's cultivated from knowing you're going to check the boxes and that you're going to see and make space for all the things. But the magnetism and the doorway for magic isn't quite as big. Versus, let's picture it this way. He or she says, we're going to go to Italy. 5 days, no plan. All we're going to do is book the hotel, and we're going to wake up, and you're going to wear the cutest dress and hat situation. You're going to look like $1,000,000. You're going to feel so good. And we are going to go and get lost in Italy. And who knows, maybe we'll find music. We'll find food and wine for sure. Maybe we'll go dancing. Maybe we'll find a museum. Who knows? We're in Italy. What is today going to bring? Who are we going to meet? All I know is that we're going to be together, and I cannot wait to make memories with you. Okay? Right. Like, I have a little bit of goosebumps right now from that. You're like, oh my God, your heart's moving. You're like, whoo, wow. Okay, what is the story going to be for today? Because the story is not planned yet. And it's in being the creator of the story that you meet yourself. Not just in what you're doing, but in life, in a messy middle. So my inner reflection when I saw this quote, chaos makes the muse, was really, where in my life am I making it so that chaos blocks me from the magic, instead of chaos being the doorway into the spontaneity of the realm of possibility? I'm the kind of person usually, like I said, who loves a plan, right? So if Tom and I have scheduled plan for a date night, we also have date nights where we're like, let's just go down the beach and see what happens. But on a date night, if we've been planning 7 p.m., we're going to go to sushi on Thursday. I get really excited about that. And so if something changes, of course it's okay, but it's also like, this is one little mirror moment for me of why does it need to be like that? Obviously, standards and expectations when there's agreements made is its own conversation, right? Like, we don't want to be the person that's flighty and flaky, and nobody likes a person like that. But if he changes it up on me and he's like, actually, I had this idea, why don't we go do this? I'm like kind of over exaggerating right now. Like, of course I would in that moment be like, oh yeah, sure. But this is just such a mirror moment for anything. When a plan shifts, is there a part of you that clings to what was? Or maybe the shift, the chaos of the shift, is room for magic. Maybe the chaos of the shift is the doorway of the realm of possibility cracking open into predictability and inviting you into a magic evening that might just be one of the best stories you could ever tell. Where in your life are you doing this, right? Where are you doing this with the way that you create, the way that you show up, the way that you connect, the way that you hold yourself in a public place, the way that you are open in every moment? We know the power of presence, the episode. The power. Presence is a portal. We know the power of presence. Everything is at our fingertips if we only get still enough to become fully conscious in any single moment. But what if that didn't have to turn off when there was chaos? What if being able to hold that, even with everything going on, and if chaos doesn't feel like an aligned word for this situation, what does, right? When all the boxes aren't checked, when your house isn't perfectly clean, when you are sad about this thing but happy about this thing, how can you hold it all at the same time? And how can you hold your center and thrive in the messy middle as a way of life, as an art of living, bringing it with you into the way that you show up on such a deep level, instead of clinging to control and perfectionist and overthinking of the things that allow you to feel comfortable in the flow? What if you can have those, but also keep the door open for the crack of magic in the realm of possibility when chaos comes knocking at your door as an invitation to try on something new. So this is what I'm currently moving through in my life, is how can I release the grip? How can I stay in the driver's seat, right? My energetics are my top priority. This is my side of the story. Because when I am conscious of what I'm putting out, the universe gets to work with me in a way that I actually am desiring. So if I know that to be true, how can I hold that but not need to control the aspects of my physical realm of life around me and create narratives? I can only focus when the house is clean. I can only tap into this when I'm doing this. I can only get excited for this when I know for sure it's happening. Do you see how these little pieces don't allow life itself to be repetition in the messy middle? How much is your love of control actually simultaneously your kink of defeat? How much can you open your heart to live life like you were in Italy for the day without a plan? How much would you want to soak up? What pieces of predictability can be set up to sustain you so that it doesn't always have to be top priority, that you can loosen, right? It's like the you that is with your friends, having so much fun, blasting your favorite new song, dancing, and just that joy, that happiness. You are open for anything, and therefore anything can find you. Instead of controlling from a closed place, gripping from a closed place, and saying, why does it feel like nothing's reaching me here? Because you've got to open one moment at a time. Chaos makes the muse. Repetition in the messy middle. If you can play with these two things as one way of life, I guarantee you this time tomorrow, this time next week, this time next month, this time next year, your life will look so different, right? Like, think of me with this podcast turning 4 next month. Think of me with this YouTube channel journey that I'm embarking on and I have no idea what I'm doing. Think of me as I'm creating this community, Sanctuary of She, and allowing it to grow and shape-shift and co-create with all the members inside as it comes to life deeper and deeper every single day, right? It's all, when you take a step back, it's all repetition in the messy middle. But when I can allow chaos to make the muse, then everything that lands on my path every single day gets to be a pebble for me to keep the door open to magic where anything can reach me. So I invite you to hold this in your heart, to play with this in your soul, to dance with this. Because what it also allows you is to have fun with the journey again. It's like right before vacation, you've got a to-do list of a mile long of all the things that need to get done. The dogs need to get ready for the dog sitter. We've got to get the house cleaned and the cleaner scheduled for when we get back. We've got to get all the kids' bags packed. We've got to arrange hotel reservations. Okay, right? And then you get there, you're like, how many of you then don't know how to really exist in that? Because it's so foreign. So then you start making itineraries for yourself, right? It's face to face with the unknown. The unknown isn't some faraway place. It's right here in every moment. And it is the doorway to the things that you want to touch. You've got to be willing to open, to feel it, to connect with it, to be with it. It's when you've been trying to figure out something for so long and then you say F it and you throw everything away and you just sit in meditation and you say, I surrender. I surrender. Then it lands. Then you know the clarity because you're open. It's available in every moment. So, repetition in the messy middle. Power, power, power of this. Take it with you. Try it on. Be with this. If this episode lit you up, if you want to come to Hawaii with us and try this on and be with it, if you want to watch on YouTube, if you want to come into the community, like, this space is built for you and by you. It is a co-creation of all of the women that are inside of it. And it is the greatest gift of life to not just be working towards a goal, but to allow the joy and the reason of why you're working towards that goal to come alive today, one day at a time, as you learn how to stay open in every moment of conscious presence. This is the magic to the human experience. This is the beauty. This is the bridge to everything you want. Everything you want. Okay. Have a beautiful rest of your day. I love you so deeply. You've got this. Nobody's got it figured out. Everyone's somewhere in their journey of messy middle as they're sharpening the mastery of their craft. What is it that you want to do? Jump. Go for it. You got this. See you soon.